We ride eastward, not on roads, but across windswept plains. Not through cities, but through wide, silent lands where the sky stretches endlessly above you and the earth is soft beneath the hooves of horses. This is the world of the Mongols, a people who built one of the largest empires in human history without ever building a single true city of their own. No marble capitals, no towering stone cathedrals, no colosseums or triumphal arches, just felt walls, open grass, and movement. For centuries, they lived without anchors, following the wind, the water, the herd, and when they rose, the world changed. It begins with grass, endless, rolling grass, knee-high in summer, powdered white in winter. You do not live in a house. You live in a circle, a domed felt tent called a soft, warm, round. Your world fits on the back of a cart. The sun rises early. There is no rooster, only the sound of hooves and the low hum of wind across the plain. Inside the ger, it is dim. The air smells of smoke and milk. You sleep close to your family. The hearth is always at the center. The fire, sacred and practical. You never step over it. You never spit into it. Your mornings are quiet. You rise, shake the frost from your clothes, and step outside into the cold air. There is no street, no plaza, no bakery, but the earth is wide, and you know every bend in the land like a map drawn in your feet. You tend to your animals, goats, sheep, yaks. The milk must be boiled, the wool must be combed, the horses must be watched, always watched. To lose a horse is to lose a leg. You don't farm. The soil is too wild for that. Instead, you follow the grass. You move season by season. Your home, your animals, your entire life, always moving. There is no written calendar. Time is marked by weather, the flowering of wild onions, the molting of sheep, the timing of a migrating flock overhead. You eat simply. Dried curds, boiled meat, fermented mares, milk herring, sour and sharp. It warms the belly when the wind cuts too deep. There are no schools, but children learn early. To ride by the age of 4, to shoot by 6, to listen to wind patterns and read the behavior of restless animals. Everything is oral. History, song, the legends of your ancestors passed around the fire, told with cracked voices and hands warmed by tea. You are poor by the measure of other people's, but you are not weak. At night, the stars are everywhere. You see them like no city dweller ever can. They wheel overhead like ancient wheels, unmoving, silent, constant. Your bed is a mat, your blanket is fur, and your lullaby is wind. There are no walls around your life, only the horizon. But even out here, laws exist, roles are respected. A chieftain leads, a shaman interprets. Elders remember, young ones obey. The ger is taken down with care, every rope coiled, every pole wrapped, and the family moves on. The wind covers their tracks. The land forgets their footprints, but their rhythm remains. This is how the Mongols lived, not in castles, not in cities, but on the back of the earth itself, with nothing permanent but the sky. Now, we turn our attention from the quiet rhythm of daily life to the quiet rise of one man, a boy with nothing, born among wind and wolves, in a land with no cities to claim him, no scrolls to record his birth, no temple bells to mark his passing. He would come to be known as Genghis Khan, but once he was simply Temujin, a child of the steppe. Imagine him, a thin figure, no more than 9 or 10. His family, recently abandoned by their tribe, left to survive alone in the shadow of winter. The grass turns brittle, the nights bite deeper, the food runs low, and Temujin learns not from books, but from hunger. He watches his mother scrape the last of the dried roots from a pot. He listens to the wind, because silence holds warning here. The wolves don't howl for ceremony. They howl because they're closing in. Temujin was not born to rule. He was born into exile. His father, poisoned by rival tribes. His family cast out, too weak to lead, too dangerous to ignore. Others would have vanished, melted into the soil. But Temujin endured. He formed bonds, not by lineage, but by loyalty. One man here, another family there. A web slowly spun in the cold. There were battles, captures, escapes. Once he was taken prisoner, chained with a wooden collar. He did not cry out. He watched. He waited. And when he escaped, He remembered every face. Temujin married young to Bert, a woman who would remain with him for life. Even when she was kidnapped by a rival tribe, he did not give in to grief. He raised a small force. He rescued her, quietly, efficiently. That was his way. No grand speeches, no bloody declarations, just action and memory. Slowly, he gathered strength. He built trust through fairness, a rare trait in a world of shifting elite. He promoted based on merit, not bloodline. He rewarded loyalty, but punished betrayal. Without passion, but without mercy. The tribes began to notice, and then to follow, and in 1206, they crowned him Genghis Khan, universal ruler. But his empire was not marked by palaces. He carried no throne, no crown of gold, only a felt tent, a steel bow, and a law carved not in stone, but in memory. He moved with his people, slept on the same ground, ate the same meat, felt the same cold. He conquered not for sport, but for unification. China, Persia, Russia. He rode not with noise, but with dust, not with proclamations, but with certainty. And wherever he passed, the world changed shape. When he died in 1227, no great tomb was raised, no city bore his name for centuries. His grave remains a mystery, hidden, perhaps even deliberately erased, so that the memory of the man might be preserved without the distractions of stone. Even in death, he remained of the earth. No cities, no statues, just wind and legend. Temujin became Genghis Khan not by chance, but by endurance, by mastering the land that most tried only to survive. He lived without walls, and so his empire knew no bounds. We now leave the man and turn toward what he never sought to build, a city. But after Genghis Khan's death, his sons and grandsons, those who inherited the rhythms of the steppe, also inherited something else, the burden of permanence. They ruled an empire now, a vast latticed work of trade, tribute, and governors. And so, a strange idea took root on the endless plains of Mongolia, a city, a capital, a center. Its name was Karakorum. Imagine the open steppe, grass stretching 4 miles in every direction, and in the middle, a collection of structures, some made of wood, others stone, some tents, some temples, a crossroads of peoples, a blend of the nomadic and the rooted. This was built in the 1230s under Genghis Khan, Genghis's son. It was never grand in size, but it was grand in spirit. The city was designed not to resemble the capitals of sedentary empires, but to contain the world. A mosque, a Christian church, a Buddhist temple, a Confucian shrine. Caravans arrived from every corner: Persia, China, Russia, India. Languages tangled in the markets. Goods exchanged hands under open skies. It was not large, but it was layered. There were craftsmen from conquered cities, goldsmiths from the Middle East, Chinese engineers, Persian scribes. A cosmopolitan city, in the least likely of places. The heart of Karakorum was not its palace, but its workshops. Genghis established a silver fountain, crafted in the shape of a tree, designed by a French artisan. Out of its branches poured fermented mare's milk, rice wine, honey mead, and airagzawa. It was a court of spectacle, but without grandeur. Everything remained oddly humble, portable, flexible. Even the Khan's palace was closer to a glorified tent than a stone fortress. But Karakorum was never meant to last. Its location was vulnerable, its design not built for defense, and by the late 13th century, when Kublai Khan moved the imperial seat to Dardu, what is now Beijing, Karakorum began to fade. It was attacked, burned, rebuilt, and finally abandoned. The winds of the steppe reclaimed it. For centuries, its memory slept beneath the soil. Only in the 20th century did excavations begin to uncover its bones, ceramic shards, foundations of temples, metal tools, traces of an empire's forgotten pulse. Today, a monastery stands nearby Adin Zoo, its white walls a silent echo of the lost city's outline. Karakorum was not a typical capital. It had no marble avenues, no towering domes, but it was a mirror, reflecting the world the Mongols had conquered, a city born of dust and diplomacy. And like everything they touched, it did not seek power. It lived just long enough to remind us that even the most nomadic of peoples sometimes pause. And now, we draw close to the quiet power behind the empire. Not the battlefield, not the campfire, but the councils, the wives, the generals, the ones who advised the Khan and carried his will across continents. Tonight, we step gently into the lives of the Mongol elite. There were no marble palaces, no courts of endless corridors. Instead, the elite of the Mongol world lived much like their people, but theirs were larger, hetted, lined with fine silks, embellished with gold thread, fur rugs from the Arctic north, and ivory combs from India. To the untrained eye, it might still seem humble, but wealth here was not measured in walls. It was measured in horses, in obedience, in distance one's name could travel. At the top stood the Khan, supreme leader, but never truly alone. Beside him were his wives, especially the Khotna chief wife, who often held great influence. In Mongol tradition, women had roles far broader than many of their contemporaries. They administered tribute, oversaw camps, made decisions in the Khan's absence. Some even led armies. One such woman, Sogatani Beki, widow of Talui, mother of 4 Khans, was so skilled in diplomacy that even Persian chroniclers praised her. Within the Khan circle were also generals and advisors, not chosen by blood, but often by loyalty. Many came from conquered peoples, trusted administrators from China, scholars from Central Asia, even craftsmen from Europe. This was not a court of etiquette and lineage, it was a court of effectiveness. You proved yourself not with poetry, but with results. Still, life among the elite had its own rhythm. The day might begin with council, called Kurultai, where tribal leaders debated matters of conquest or governance, seated in a wide ring, each man with a voice. Decisions were not barked from thrones, but murmured through consensus. There was feasting, too. But even this was different. Meat was boiled, not roasted. Liquor was sipped from silver bowls, but always in moderation. Drunkenness in the Khan's presence was frowned upon. Silence, restraint, and discipline were more valuable than performance. Leisure, too, had its place. Archery competitions, horse races, storytelling, often led by musicians called kukshi, who preserved tribal histories in melodic whispers. Women participated as well. Some hunted, some governed districts. Education was informal, but sharp. Children of elite families learned Mongol history, but also Persian logic, Chinese governance, and Turkic poetry. A child of the Khan might have grown up hearing 4 languages before adolescence, and yet, these elites still slept in tents, still moved with the seasons, still listened to the wind to know when to pack up and go. Power never separated them from the land. Even when Mongol rulers adopted the courts of Persia or China, they often carried pieces of their mobile past with them. A tent set up in palace gardens, a felt screen behind the throne, a bowl of fermented mares, milk served in place of tea. To live among the Khan's elite was to live with power, but also with impermanence. The empire could stretch from Korea to Hungary, but tomorrow you might be summoned across it. There were no stone mansions, no vineyards to retire into, only duty and dust and the long horizon. The Mongol elite ruled an empire not from towers, but from tents. Their authority, like their lives, was always in motion, always temporary, and somehow enduring.